Talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is almost like stating the obvious. Everyone knows the four brothers, their obsession with pizza, and of course, the iconic Cowabunga. Most of us grew up with the classic 80s cartoon, those carefree Saturday morning adventures that were all fun and no fuss. But in 2012, Nickelodeon decided to take that formula and supercharge it with drama, turning the story into something much bigger. This series isn't just about saving the day. The rivalry between Leonardo and Raphael is treated seriously, with real consequences for the team. Kurai's journey, Splinter's long-lost daughter raised by the Shredder, plays out like a full-blown ninja Shakespearean tragedy, and the plot? It goes wild. They head to space, travel through time, battle demons from other dimensions. It's not just a cartoon, it's an epic saga that balances classic humor with a huge heart and surprisingly mature storytelling. So today on the channel, we're diving into all 5 seasons of this franchise that changed my life, and probably yours too. We open on Michelangelo putting on a display of agility in a ninja training session, wiping the floor with his brothers using some insane moves. But Master Splinter shows up to shut down the fun, reminding him that the goal isn't to win, but to improve. After training, the Turtles celebrate the Mutation Day with a cake made of algae and worms, a delicacy. Splinter takes the opportunity to tell their origin story, how he bought the 4 of them as pets, and after following a suspicious man, they all got doused in a mutagenic ooze that transformed them. Leonardo, the by-the-book one of the group, argues that at 15 years old, they're ready to see the world above. Splinter reluctantly agrees, dropping the classic dad line,
"Wisdom comes from experience, and experience comes from making mistakes."
On the surface, it's a party. The guys are blown away by the city, and Mikey discovers the 8th wonder of the world, pizza. But the joy is short-lived. They witness a kidnapping in progress and decide to get involved, ignoring their master's orders. The brawl is against bizarre robots controlled by an alien brain. The fight is completely disorganized, and the kidnappers manage to escape with the victim. Back in the sewer, the Turtles argue about their failure to work as a team, and Splinter takes the blame. He decides to postpone their next trip to the surface for a year, but the brothers insist on rescuing the kidnapped person now. Splinter agrees, but on one condition: Leo is now the leader, which immediately sparks that classic sibling rivalry. Their plan is to use the bad guy's van for an ambush, and in the process, they learn the villain's name, the Krang. The Turtles find a henchman named Snake and discover the Krang are kidnapping scientists. In a moment of pure genius, Wrath threatens to throw mutagen on the guy, who spills his guts and reveals that the abductees will be taken out of the city. In the middle of the argument, Snake manages to escape. Leo fully steps into his role as leader and comes up with a plan. Use an empty van as bait to infiltrate the Krang's base at midnight. Before the mission, Splinter gives his son a pep talk and takes the chance to make a revelation: his personal conflict with someone named Shredder. The plan is a success. They get inside the base and rescue the scientists, including a girl named April and her father. But during the escape, the henchman Snake falls into the mutagen and becomes Snakeweed, a giant plant monster. The fight against Snakeweed and the Krang is intense, and it's Donatello who saves the day, using his head to destroy the creature's power generator. Afterward, April thanks them, but tells them the police didn't believe her crazy story about aliens. In the lair, Splinter praises Leo's leadership, but then drops a bombshell. He only chose him because he asked. To top it off, the Turtles make the news as ninjas in New York, which worries Splinter. Elsewhere, a menacing figure named Shredder sees the report and prepares to join the fray.
I'm going to visit an old friend.
The Turtles are on a stakeout at a lab, waiting for a crying attack. Mikey's patience is wearing thin, and Raphael's anger is about to boil over. To make matters worse, some clueless civilian shows up and starts yelling at them. The only thing that prevents a fight is the arrival of the Krang, and in the middle of the chaos, the civilian films everything. Splinter scolds Raphael for exposing the team, and puts them through a training session to learn how to endure insults without losing their cool. The Turtles try to get the video back, but the guy wants $1 million for it. The Krang attack again, and Raph, blinded by rage, chases the civilian into the Krang's van, handing the villains the phone on a silver platter. Following a trail of leaking fluid, they find the enemy base. Leo, furious with his brother's lack of discipline, benches Raphael from the mission. Meanwhile, Splinter tells Raphael how his own rage against Shredder caused him to lose his family. Back at the base, the other Turtles see the Krang negotiating with the civilian. During the fight, the guy is exposed to mutagen and turns into spider bites, a bizarre spider creature. The Turtles are getting their butts kicked until Raphael returns, now with his anger under control. Together, they defeat the monster and retrieve the phone. Shredder, who's like the final boss of an arcade game, gives his disciple a clear order: eliminate Splinter and his students. He's discovered that his old rival is in New York and, even worse, is training a team of ninjas. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Mikey is having an existential crisis. He tries to return a cat to its owner, but the man calls him a green monster and slams the door in his face. Heartbreaking, right? Determined to prove he can have human friends, Mikey does what any Gen Zer would do. He goes online. He finds out his martial arts idol, Chris Bradford, is in town and doesn't think twice before adding him as a friend. His brothers warn him it's a terrible idea, but Mikey is all, "You don't understand my pain," and goes to meet the guy anyway. And guess what? It's a trap. Bradford is actually one of Shredder's minions and used Mikey as bait to lure out Master Splinter. Bradford reveals his betrayal, and the turtles fall into an ambush. After a tense escape through the sewers, Splinter lays it on the line. The peace is over. Shredder knows they're alive, and war has officially been declared. In the end, a dejected Mikey is told by Raphael that he deserves better friends and unfollows his fake idol. End of toxic friendship. After a skateboarding session goes very wrong,
What is going on in here?
Sensei!
the turtles are grounded by Splinter, and boredom is hitting hard. To liven things up, Donnie gives Mikey a present: the T-Pod, an MP3 player built with a super advanced chip he found in the trash. Basically, a junk-made iPod. But boredom is a powerful force, and Mikey convinces his brothers to sneak out for a skate session. During their ride, they see a guy in a battlesuit getting bullied. The turtles, acting like heroes, intervene and toss the poor guy into a dumpster. But in the confusion, Mikey drops his T-Pod. The guy in the suit, whose name is Baxter Stockman, finds the device. The chip fuses with his armor, transforming him into the Stockman Pod, a villain who gets stronger by the second. The turtles try to fight him again but get completely owned. That's when Master Splinter steps in with some Jedi Master wisdom. Attack the man inside the armor, not the machine. With a plan worthy of the Looney Tunes, they use Mikey as bait to lure the Stockman Pod into a hornet's nest. Amid the chaos, Donnie manages to get the T-Pod back and shut down the armor. Splinter praises their strategy, but the punishment stands. Now they have to face a training session. No days off for anyone. Donnie is bummed that his weapons are made of wood and can't handle the Krang's tech. He creates Metalhead, a combat robot, to be the new member of the team. April calls to warn them that the Krang are trying to contaminate the city's water supply with mutagen. Donnie insists on bringing the robot, but the thing glitches during the fight, attacks its own brothers, and gets captured by the villains. To save the day, Donnie uses his brain and provokes the robot with insults. The tactic works. Provoked, Metalhead advances on Donnie and takes a staff blow straight to the chest. The lesson learned: a ninja's strength doesn't come from technology. Donnie is focused on asking April out, but she shows up with a problem. The neuroscientist Dr. Tyler Rockwell has disappeared. The investigation leads them to his colleague's lab, Dr. Falco, where they find mutagen and an empty cage. Suddenly, a mutant monkey appears and knocks Donnie out. They discover that the monkey is the scientist, and that Dr. Falco used him as a test subject. Falco appears, revealing he stole the serum from Dr. Rockwell's brain and can now read minds. To defeat him, Donnie remembers Splinter's lesson, empties his mind, and wins the fight. Falco makes a run for it. Splinter, seeing April's potential, offers to train her to become a kunoichi. Shredder, pissed off after being defeated, puts Zever in charge of the hunt.
I shall deal with Hamato Yoshi's disciples myself.
Meanwhile, the turtles meet the blind Mr. Murakami. The purple dragons show up to cause trouble, and Raphael gets angry at Leo for sparing them. Splinter explains that compassion is a form of strength. The villains, Bradford and Zever, reveal themselves as the new leaders of the purple dragons and kidnap Murakami to set a trap. The turtles go to the rescue, use teamwork, and defeat them. Leo proves his point. One of the dragons he spared earlier ends up helping them in the fight. Shredder, seeing their failure, decides that next time he'll get his own hands dirty. The stage is set. April is just chilling when, out of nowhere, she's attacked by a mutant pigeon. But wait, the bird, named Pete, isn't a villain. He's like a crazy carrier pigeon. He brings a message from April's father, who was kidnapped by the Krang, warning that something big is coming. The turtles set a trap, capture Pete, and discover he was was just a normal pigeon who had the bad luck of falling into a vat of mutagen. In exchange for some breadcrumbs, he gives up the location of the Krang's secret base. The rescue mission begins. They invade the base and save April's father, but Donnie uncovers a sinister plot. The Krang are going to detonate a mutagen bomb in the middle of the city, turning everyone into monsters. It becomes a race against time to defuse the bomb. In classic action movie style, they manage to cut the right wire with seconds to spare, but just when they think it's over, they come face to face with none other than Shredder. Seeing they're totally outgunned, the Turtles make a quiet getaway while Shredder and his goon are bickering. Back in the sewer, Master Splinter makes it clear. Shredder's appearance means the game is over. Now, it's war. Shredder decides to pay a surprise visit to the sewers and nearly wipes the Turtles out. They barely manage to escape. But Master Splinter is furious about the defeat. He basically goes into drill sergeant mode and puts his sons through military-level training, forbidding any trips to the surface until they're stronger. Exhausted and fed up with the intense training, they uncover Shredder's plan: to dump chlorosulfonic acid into the sewers to destroy their home. It's like trying to kill a cockroach with a bazooka. The acid reacts with water, so the plan is to literally dissolve everything. Later, April, always on a mission, disguises herself as a firefighter to spy on a Foot Clan meeting, but the plan goes south and she gets captured. The Turtles race to the rescue in Donnie's buggy, which isn't even finished yet, but it's all they've got. The chase after the tanker truck is insane, complete with a brawl against Dog Pound and his ninjas. At the last second, they manage to stop the truck and save their home. Seeing his son's bravery, Splinter realizes he was too hard on them, apologizes for the Spartan training, and to everyone's surprise, gives them the day off. A well-deserved break, finally. Master Splinter decides to organize a training session in pairs, with the whole lecture about how teamwork is more important than rivalry. In practice, however, it turns into Leo and Raphael as the A team, while Mikey and Donnie are left feeling like the B team, the guys on the bench. The real trouble starts when April is mugged by the purple dragons. Even though Splinter warned them to stay out of trouble, the Turtles ignore him to get their friend's phone back. Along the way, they run into the Mousers, a swarm of maniacal robots created by Baxter Stockman. To prove they're not the B team, Mikey and Donnie decide to go after the phone alone. Guess what? It all goes wrong, and they end up captured. Leo and Raph have to step in to save their brothers. Together, the four of them finally manage to defeat Stockman and Dog Pound. Back at the lair, Splinter gives them the fatherly "I'm disappointed" speech, talking about the consequences of rushing into a fight without thinking. But in the end, everything turns out fine. They return April's phone, which is now a T-phone, souped up by Donnie. At least the mission came with an upgrade. A news report shows that a giant mutant alligator is terrorizing people in the sewers. The Turtles go to investigate and find the gator, Leatherhead, getting beaten up by some Krang droids. Without a second thought, they save the big guy.
Or maybe the second thing.
At first, Leatherhead is defensive, but Mikey, with his charming personality, manages to befriend him. The Gator then tells his story. He was mutated by the Krang and stole a power cell from them, a crucial component that controls the alien's interdimensional portal. The problem is, the Krang track the cell to the Turtles' lair and invade. Seeing the danger, Leatherhead turns into a human shield, holding off the droid army to give the Turtles time to escape with the power cell. They use the cell to power up an abandoned subway car and make a run for it, but they end up crashing into a sewage treatment plant. That's where Leatherhead reappears to finish the fight, ensuring the Krang's battery stays far out of their hands. Dr. Victor Falco is back in town, vowing revenge on everyone who wronged him. Meanwhile, in the sewers, the Turtles are in the middle of a training session with Master Splinter. Leo even manages to land a hit, but the Master quickly turns the tables, showing that hesitation is for the weak. Far away, Falco isn't messing around. He's running bizarre experiments on rats and creates a chemical that gives him the power to control all the rodents in New York, like a supervillain version of the Pied Piper. He dubs himself the Rat King and declares war on humanity. His first target, April, trapped against a lamppost by an army of rats. It's rats everywhere, a scene straight out of a horror movie. The Turtles swoop in to save the day and immediately realize that this rodent horde is being controlled by someone. Back at the lair, Splinter figures it all out. It's Falco, and he even knows the Psycho's address beneath Herald Square. The showdown happens in the Rat King's lair, and the villain uses uses his psychic powers to turn Splinter into a puppet, forcing the turtles to fight their own master, a total nightmare. In the midst of the chaos, Raphael lets out a desperate cry that seems to break the spell. Splinter snaps out of it, frees himself, and lays a beatdown on Falco. In the end, he acknowledges that his sons are getting good, but warns them they haven't seen anything yet. The tension between Leo and Raphael is at a boiling point. During a chase after the mutant snakeweed, the two can't agree on how to be a good leader. Leo wants to take a stealthy aerial approach, while Raph wants to just charge in head first. Leo, fed up, lets his brother take the lead.
You know what, Raph? If you think you could do better, why don't you lead?
First good idea you've had all day.
And what happens? Raph's impulsive plan goes spectacularly wrong. Snakeweed regenerates, and to make matters worse, Mikey gets injured. The mood on the team gets heavy. Hot-headed, Leo goes out to patrol alone and runs into Kurai, a deadly kunoichi from the Foot Clan. The two go at it in an evenly matched fight, but in the end, she decides to spare his life. The air is thick with tension. The team regroups to rescue some people Snakeweed captured. They succeed, but everyone realizes that without Leo's leadership, things fall apart. Raph, with his tail between his legs, apologizes and admits that the burden of leadership belongs to his brother. Later, Leo vents to April about Kurai, but completely ignores her warnings. He arranges a meeting with the ninja on a rooftop, where she tries to convince him to steal a legendary katana. Leo refuses, and in the middle of the standoff, Snakeweed shows up to crash the party. But then Raph comes in with a flying kick, and the two brothers, finally in sync, finish off the mutant. Kurai bails, leaving Leo utterly confused. The turtles are in a massive brawl with Krang droids, completely unaware that Kurai is watching everything from the shadows. Like a ninja stalker, she brings the intel to Shredder, but he couldn't care less about the robots. The guy is obsessed with one thing: revenge on Splinter. Meanwhile, Leo continues to defend Kurai to Raphael, insisting there's some good in her. Across town, an unsuspecting April sends a DNA sample to something called the World Genome Project. Little does she know she's walked right into a Krang trap. An undercover agent posing as Miss Campbell attacks April to get the DNA back. The turtles arrive to save their friend and uncover the plot. The Genome Project is just a front to collect DNA from all over Earth. The team invades the lab, and who shows up to get in the way? Kurai, of course. She starts fighting Raphael, and in the middle of the chaos, triggers an alarm that releases a bizarre tentacled mutant. With chaos ensuing, she simply turns her back and leaves, letting the turtles deal with the mess. After defeating the monster, the guys finally confront Leo about his little secret with Kurai. Even Master Splinter gives him a straight talk, warning that she can't be trusted. And he's right. The scene cuts to Kurai handing over Krang Tech to Shredder, ready to be used against the turtles.
Well done, Kurai.
The turtles finally show off their new toy, the Shell Razor, an armored van that looks like something out of Mad Max, built by Donnie and powered by a Krang power cell. There's just one problem. During a test drive, they discover that this alien battery acts like a GPS for their enemies. Oops! In the middle of their joyride, they rescue a wannabe hero named the Pulverizer, who is getting beaten up by the purple dragons. The guy is such a huge fan that he accidentally follows the turtles back to their lair and finds out about the Krang. Now their secret isn't so secret anymore. While Donnie keeps an eye on the fanboy, the others go to investigate Baxter Stockman. This mad scientist is using stolen Krang parts to build a robotic fish. During the fight, the contraption poisons Raphael, and things get serious. Donnie has to race to save his brother and the Shell Razor, but guess who shows up to ruin things? The Pulverizer. He causes an accident that cracks the power cell, turning it into a giant beacon for the Krang. The aliens arrive on the scene, steal the battery, and take off. The turtles barely escape, but now they're on foot and without their power source. Without the Krang power cell, the Shell Razor is now a giant paperweight. To fix this, the turtles venture even deeper into the sewers to find Leatherhead, the giant crocodile who knows his way around alien tech. He tells them the battery is in a building called TCRI and draws a symbol that Donnie recognizes instantly. It's time for an infiltration. The team breaks into the building, Mission Impossible style, dodging all of the Krang's high-tech security. Inside, they find not only the battery, but an interdimensional portal that looks straight out of Stargate. And of course, a giant rock monster comes through to welcome them. After a fight worthy of a video game boss battle, they manage to push the creature back through. But to close the portal, Leatherhead makes the ultimate sacrifice and stays behind. The turtles escape with only a Krang thumb drive in hand. After analyzing the data, Donnie discovers that the alien's real target is April. Things just got personal. The turtles devise a spy plan worthy of James Bond, only their version is a cockroach with a camera. But as always, the plan plan goes spectacularly wrong. The spy sect falls into a vat of mutagen and turns into a giant monster that starts hunting its own creators. From the camera footage, they discover the Krang's evil plan, to use a laser drill to pierce the Earth's core. For this doomsday weapon to work, they need a diamond lens. The mission is now twofold: stop the diamond theft and survive the giant mutant cockroach that won't stop chasing them. The situation is a nightmare for Raphael, who is terrified of bugs. The team's bruiser is completely paralyzed with fear. In the climax, the cockroach attacks Mikey, and Raph has to choose between his fear and his brother. He overcomes his phobia, saves Mikey, and destroys the monster. As a bonus, he even uses the Krang's own laser drill against itself, saving New York from becoming a burnt pizza. The scientist Baxter Stockman, now working for the Krang, shows off a new weapon that implodes molecules. Behind the scenes, he's already plotting his revenge. Meanwhile, April, frustrated with being on the sidelines, asks Splinter when she'll get a weapon. Stockman goes off the deep end and convinces Shredder to use Dog Pound and Fishface as bait. The turtles fall for the trap and find themselves in a deadly maze. The only way out is a bizarre alliance with the villains. While the group distracts Stockman and his overpowered robot, Donnie uses the T-phone to hack the system and find the exit. The temporary alliance works, and they manage to escape, but the truce ends the second the danger is gone. In the end, Splinter finally gives April her first weapon, a Tessin fan. She accepts, ready to join the fight for real. The turtles are staking out the TCRI building, waiting for a Krang recon ship to appear. It's almost like movie night, but with aliens. Suddenly, Kurai appears to crash the party and challenges the heroes to a fight. The fight's just getting started when a Krang ship appears and starts blasting everyone. The turtles bolt, but not before Donnie manages to track the ship with a makeshift radar. Kurai, meanwhile, is frustrated with Shredder, who insists on ignoring the alien threat. So she has a crazy idea: propose a temporary alliance with the turtles. After a tense conversation, they agree. Her plan is to steal a missile launcher from one of Shredder's arms shipments and blow up the ship. The turtles, however, decide to change the plan and ambush Shredder instead. As expected, everything goes wrong. The Krang ship appears right in the middle of the chaos, and the alliance between Kurai and the turtles falls apart when she reveals she is Shredder's daughter. Using the missile launcher, the turtles destroy the ship. But the chance of having Kurai as an ally vanishes with the explosion. Shredder is interrogating a Krang and learns the secret of the hour. April is the key to the aliens' plans. The mission is now clear, and he sends Kurai to find and capture the girl. Meanwhile, the turtles and April discover that the Krang are contaminating the city's water supply. They locate the villain's underwater base and head there in a submarine powered by kinetic energy, whatever that is. April stays on the surface and decides to go to a restaurant, where she runs into a disguised Kurai. The charade doesn't last long, and Kurai attacks her. April manages to escape and calls the turtles, who are a little busy fighting a sea monster guarding the base. Even with the monster in their way, they manage to sabotage the facility, which explodes spectacularly. After all the chaos, Splinter makes a drastic decision. For her own safety, April will have to live with them in the sewers. After all, with Shredder and the Krang on her tail, life on the surface has become too dangerous. After an easy victory against the foot soldiers, Shredder is fed up. He looks at his army and thinks, seriously? This is it? His solution? Steal Krang technology to create his own mutants and finally crush the turtles. Meanwhile, remember the Pulverizer, the turtles' #1 fan? He's back, but now he's on the dark side, working for the Foot Clan as cannon fodder. Ignoring all warnings, he volunteers to be a spy and discovers Shredder's plan. Splinter, on the other hand, is teaching his sons to fight without their weapons, like a Jedi training exercise to force them to adapt. The Pulverizer returns with the intel. The Foot Clan is going to steal mutagen, and in his utter naivety, he offers himself up as the test subject. The turtles rush to try and save the guy, but his mind is made up. He just jumps into the vat of mutagen like it's a swimming pool. The result? He doesn't become a superhero. He becomes a giant, mindless mutant blob, a sort of angry amoeba. The lab is about to explode, and the turtles scramble to get out, taking the new creation with them. Now, the Pulverizer is Donnie's problem. To top it all off, Shredder and the Krang decide to form an alliance. Basically, the turtles' greatest enemies just dropped a collab. Things just got serious.
It seems we have a common enemy.
The team decides to explore an abandoned Krang lab, a terrible idea, as always. Inside, they find a giant mutant wasp and a mysterious egg. And guess what? Leo gets stung. From that moment on, the by-the-book leader becomes a fanatical bodyguard for the egg. He becomes super protective and aggressive, even biting Raphael to defend it, and the venom is like a zombie virus. Raph gets infected too and starts protecting the egg. Donnie, the brains of the operation, figures out the truth. The wasp is a parasite, straight out of the movie Alien. The venom mind controls the victim to protect the egg, and when the larva hatches, it devours the host. Sinister. The only one immune is Mikey, who had an allergic reaction. For the first time, being the weirdo of the group actually paid off. With his brother's brains on autopilot, Mikey has to fend for himself. He pretends he was also infected to trick the others. While faking being an egg-protecting zombie, he follows Donnie's instructions and creates an antidote. He manages to cure his brothers just in time, but then the egg hatches and 3 little wasps emerge. No panic. Mikey takes control of the Shellraiser's cannon and simply pulverizes the threats, saving the day. The court jester just became the hero. Donnie, in full hacker mode, intercepts a secret message from April's father, who's imprisoned in a Krang base. Without a second thought, he decides to play the lone hero and sets off on a rescue mission, ignoring his brother's warnings that it's a trap. Meanwhile, April is training with Master Splinter, who gives her the wisest advice of all: wait. But Donnie doesn't know how to wait. The other turtles, of course, don't leave their brother behind and go after him. Leo finds Mr. O'Neill, but in the confusion, he ends up freeing another prisoner, the Neutralizer, a hardcore alien who hates the Krang with a passion. The others arrive, and the result is pure chaos. The fight turns into a 3-way showdown: the turtles versus the Krang versus the Neutralizer. In the middle of the beatdown, they manage to escape with April's dad. Back at the lair, Kirby thanks Donnie for his courage, and Donnie is bursting with pride. Mission accomplished, right? Wrong. The scene cuts to the Krang, who reveal Kirby's escape was part of the plan all along. They let him go just so they could follow the turtles and discover the location of their lair. It was all a trap. The Krang's communications go down, and Donnie discovers the bombshell. The invasion of Earth begins in 6 hours. The Technodrome, their mobile base, is coming through a portal. Splinter warns them that they now have to be true heroes and gives Leo a heavy talk about sacrifice. April suffers a huge betrayal. Her own father, who is under Shredder's control, hands her over to the Krang. The turtles invade the alien base to stop the portal but run into a force field. While Donnie tries to hack the system, Splinter confronts Shredder and reveals a shocking truth. Karai is actually his daughter, Miwa. The turtles manage to close the portal, but the device's battery fails. Leo throws himself in front of it to contain the blast in an epic sacrifice, but he survives. The threat returns with a vengeance. The Technodrome appears over the city. The Krang's plan is to use April's psychic energy to transform the entire planet into a mutant world. They rescue her father, who reveals the conspiracy between Shredder and the Krang. Our heroes infiltrate the ship, free April, and flee, but the Technodrome begins to pursue them. Leo, remembering Splinter's talk, throws himself into action again to blow up the mothership, and again, he survives. Meanwhile, Splinter takes a beating from Shredder and discovers that Karai has been brainwashed and now hates him. A month after the invasion, the turtles are chilling, but Splinter warns that Shredder could return. The Krang sphere powers on again, revealing a secret cargo. They use April and her father's equipment to track an invisible ship. Aboard the T-Rocket, they intercept the freighter and find a robot called a Biotroid. Disaster strikes. The mutagen leaks and spills all over Kirby O'Neill, who transforms into a giant mutant bat and flies off, taking April with him. To capture him, Mikey dresses up as Turf Lytle, a ridiculous superhero, and serves as bait. They manage to trap the Kirby bat, but an angry April discovers that the mutation was their fault and kicks them out of her life. Splinter gives them their new mission: find the mutagens scattered across the city before more people get mutated. The turtles go on a mutagen hunt. Donnie's scanner fails, but Mikey spots a mutant squirrel attacking a guy. They capture the creature and take it back to the lair. In the lab, the guy splits in two, releasing 2 mutant squirrels. The lair becomes infested with squirrelanoids, and the situation is so chaotic that Splinter has to intervene. The creatures escape and head back into the sewers. The solution comes from Mikey, who uses his genius mind to lure the creatures with food and trap them in a septic tank. After the mutant squirrel crisis, Leo decides it's time to get serious and leads the team on a hunt for the lost mutagen canisters. He's in full-on leader mode, like Captain America dishing out orders. sewers. But during a training session, his brothers break protocol and use totally goofy, childlike tactics to defeat him. This shatters Leo's confidence, making him question his fitness as a leader. At the worst possible moment, he's ambushed by Karai. Alone and predictable, he's easily captured. Karai decides to teach him a lesson using footbots programmed to perfectly mimic his fighting style. It's basically Leo getting his butt kicked by himself. When all seems lost, his brothers show up to save the day, using the same goofy tactics from their training to confuse the robots. During the fight, Karai reveals her belief that Splinter killed her mother. A shocked Leo denies it all. Back in the lair, the mood is heavy. Splinter pulls Leo aside to reveal a bombshell. Karai is actually his biological daughter. Donnie is completely obsessed with creating a retro mutagen to cure April's father. The situation spirals out of control when Timothy, now a jealous monster, sees April hanging out with Casey Jones. Convinced the turtles are a bad influence, he escapes the lair and goes after her. He attacks her in a park, thinking he's saving her. The brothers arrive to intervene, but a completely unhinged Timothy declares war on them. In the middle of the brawl, he drinks even more mutagen and becomes a giant, out-of-control acid blob. The fight is intense, but Donnie, using his brains over brawn, manages to defeat the creature he created with an electric trap.
I'm sorry, Timothy.
In the end, he's devastated to have lost his chance at finding the cure. Master Splinter comforts him, saying April will return when she's ready, but the defeat in Donnie's heart is clear. Mikey wakes up covered in mutagen zits, and Donnie reveals they're a ticking time bomb. He's set to explode in 3 hours. The only cure is at the destroyed TCRI headquarters, where they run into Baxter Stockman and his robots. To make matters worse, Dog Pound and Fishface show up. In the middle of the fight, Dog Pound falls into a vat of mutagen and transforms into Razar, a tougher and more sinister version of himself. Mikey, despite being unstable, has an idea. Use water to distract the new mutant and grab the centrifuge. The tactic works, and Donnie manages to cure him in the nick of time. April is giving the turtles the cold shoulder, and Donnie is suffering in the friend zone. Meanwhile, Kurai teams up with the Krang to build a giant robot to get revenge on April. Donnie hacks the Krang's communications and uncovers the plan. Meanwhile, April finds Casey Jones, and he helps her fight the Footbots. They team up to destroy the Krang's weapon, which turns out to be a giant robot. The robot changes its objective from eliminate to capture. In the end, the turtles, April, and Casey take down the robot and the Footbots. April makes peace with the turtles, and Donnie is just happy for her. Raph is fed up with his brothers. The last straw is when an explosion nearly kills his pet turtle, Spike. That night, Spike comes into contact with mutagen and transforms into Slash, a giant, aggressive mutant turtle. Slash convinces Raph to ditch the team, but Raph soon realizes the mutation has corrupted his old friend's mind. The other turtles join Raph to fight Slash. Raph uses his meditation techniques to control his own rage and defeats the monster. Slash escapes, and Raph makes peace with his brothers. A new masked vigilante, revealed to be Casey Jones, emerges in New York. He gets into a brawl with Raph, but after they team up against some Krang droids, they earn each other's respect. Raph's anger is so out of control that he injures Leo during training. Splinter warns him to control his explosive temper. April brings Casey to the sewer lair, where he meets the team and Master Splinter. The welcome party is cut short by an attack from Krang droids. Casey and Raph team up and take down a robot. With a common enemy, Casey Jones officially joins the team. April is training hard with the turtles, desperate to go on a real mission and stop being just the girl in the chair. On patrol, they notice they're being followed. The stalker turns out to be Kurtzman, a journalist investigating the Krang. He reveals that April's mother was kidnapped by the Krang before she was even born. Because of this, her DNA is incredibly special and essential to the alien's mutagen. Right after this revelation, the Krang attack, confirming everything. The plan: infiltrate TCRI, the enemy's base, to erase April's genetic data. Inside, they walk into a horror movie scene, a lab filled with April clones. Clones everywhere. After rescuing the real April from a pod and destroying the computers, Donnie analyzes the data he managed to save, and he makes a shocking discovery. April is a mutant, a human Krang hybrid. Now her psychic abilities make perfect sense. What a twist! Casey and April are making their way through the sewers to the turtles' lair when things get weird. They encounter a swarm of rats, but the real problem problem is a hallucinogenic fungus that they accidentally inhale. The trip hits hard, and they each start seeing their greatest fear. April sees her father turned into a mutant, Casey sees demonic rats, and Wrath, the toughest guy in the group, sees giant cockroaches. Yes, cockroaches. Donnie, the team's brain, identifies the fungus as the main threat. They need to destroy it before sunset, or its spores will spread throughout the city and cause mass panic. Leo is also affected by the hallucinations and confronts his greatest fear, failing as a leader. Using this to his advantage, he overcomes the paranoia, uses sunlight to fry the fungus, and saves the day. In the end, Splinter praises Leo for facing his fear head-on, proving once again that he's the leader the team needs. Donnie proudly shows off Metalhead too, but the demonstration goes south fast. During training, the robot suddenly goes haywire and attacks Mikey. The team manages to shut the rogue machine down just in time to hear an alarm. Spider Bites is getting his butt kicked by the Krang. The turtles rescue the mutant and chase after the aliens using Metalhead and the Shellraiser. The pursuit ends in an alley, with the Krang entering a portal inside a porta-potty. Yes, a porta-potty. Once there, they discover a prison dimension where the Krang collect mutants, including April's father. In the middle of the chaos, Metalhead connects to a Krang computer, causing an explosion and destroying their only lead. To make matters worse, the robot goes completely nuts, locks the turtles in the garage, and takes off. After tracking it down, they find the portal again and enter the bizarre dimension. It's then they discover that Metalhead wasn't a traitor. He was acting on his own to free the mutants all along. During the mass escape, he heroically sacrifices himself to keep the portal open, like the T-800 giving a final thumbs up. Donnie is bummed, but understands his robot evolved and became a hero. With Metalhead in pieces, a new threat was already brewing in the city. The Rat King re-emerges more powerful than ever and manages to mind control Master Splinter. He then uses Splinter to kidnap April, Casey, and Irma. They manage to rescue the hostages, and Splinter, in a fit of pure rage, breaks free from the mind control, blinds himself, and retreats to the sewers. The turtles are in a brawl with Karai and a new villain, Tiger Claw, when an earthquake interrupts them. Splinter drops a bombshell. Karai is actually Miwa, his long-lost daughter. They discover the earthquakes are being caused by giant Dimension X worms controlled by the Krang. The turtles, April, and Casey travel to Dimension X, are captured, and learn the Krang are milking the worms to produce mutagen. Meanwhile, Tiger Claw captures Splinter, but Karai, her heart conflicted, intervenes and helps the turtles save her true father. They manage to close the portal, but one of the giant worms escapes to the surface. In another reality, Mikey loses his magic ring, and suddenly, the team is attacked by real-life goblin monkeys. Sir Malachi, a mutant bird, teleports them all into a real-life labyrinth, Jumanji style. They find themselves in a live-action game of mazes and mutants, and must rescue April, who has become the game's princess.
No way. With my first attack, I cast Magic Fist!
Donnie, the team's brain, realizes that none of it is real. It's all a mental illusion. The solution is simple: stop believing. They band together, deny the reality of that world, and the spell breaks, sending them back to the sewers. In the end, they discover that Sir Malachi is just a lonely guy who wanted some friends to play with. Donnie finally achieves the impossible. He creates the retro mutagen, the miracle cure that can turn mutants back into their original forms. The plan is to use the precious stuff to save April's father, and of course, Master Splinter. But a hero's joy is always short-lived, as Baxter Stockman shows up to crash the party. Now transformed into a grotesque mutant fly, he steals the vial and kidnaps April, demanding more of the substance. The turtles and Casey Jones launch a rescue mission at Stockman's lab. There, they discover April is immune to mutagen. In the middle of the chaos, Donnie manages to administer the retro mutagen to April's father, and the cure works. The man turns back into a human, a huge victory for the team. Stockman manages to escape at the end of the battle, but even worse, the retro mutagen meant for Splinter was lost in the fight. They save the day, but not completely. To top it off, the Shredder appears and threatens Stockman, ordering him to create a new mutant for his evil plans. The trouble begins when the Krang steal some plutonium, only to be immediately robbed by a mysterious group that makes off with the material. It's a classic case of thieves robbing thieves. The turtles and Casey Jones investigate and discover who's responsible. Slash, Raph's former pet turtle turned giant monster, and an alien named Neutralizer, a villainous duo you don't want to mess with. Meanwhile, Raph and Casey can't stop bickering, an ego clash that only hinders the mission, but they're forced to work together when they discover Slash and Neutralizer plan to use the plutonium to detonate a Krang weapon in the city. The final battle takes place at the docks, and then comes the surprise. The villains start fighting each other. Neutralizer doesn't care about sacrificing humans, but Slash, who has his own code of honor, disagrees. This internal conflict gives the heroes the opening they need. Casey proves his worth and helps the Turtles defeat Neutralizer. Slash, on the other hand, refuses to join the team and leaves on his own, continuing down his anti-hero path. In the end, Raph finally acknowledges Casey's courage and the two make peace. April is being all mysterious, ditching Irma on a hangout with Casey to keep her secret rendezvous on the down low, but her drama is completely overshadowed when a mysterious pizza arrives at the lair. Mikey, who has a built-in pizza radar, goes straight for the box to grab the first slice, but things go wrong on a horror movie level. The pizza is alive and attacks him. This bizarre experience freaks Mikey out so much that he passes out and has an epic nightmare. In his dream, the city has become a zombie pizza apocalypse, with people turned into slaves of a pizza-face villain, the one and only Pizza Face. Imagine The Walking Dead, but the zombies are made of dough, cheese, and pepperoni. In this crazy universe, Mikey becomes the great hero. He faces off against the pizza monster, fights bravely, and manages to free everyone from the cheesy tyranny. It's Mikey versus the evil pizza empire, but just at the climax, he wakes up. It was all a dream. Apparently, his pizza obsession went so far that his brain decided to create a personal horror movie. Lesson learned. Maybe it's time for Mikey to take a break from pizza, or not. Karai is having a major existential crisis after learning the truth about her parentage. She goes to confront Splinter, but their "you are the father" moment is interrupted by Tiger Claw, who's back and thirsty for revenge. The Shredder, who wastes no time, orders Karai and Tiger Claw to finish off the Turtles, but Karai is on the fence, clearly no longer wanting to be on the villain's team. Tiger Claw, having no patience for drama, decides to use the most obvious bait. He attacks April and Casey to lure the heroes out. Meanwhile, Karai rushes to warn them, showing she's switched sides for good. The showdown happens at an ice skating rink, and Casey ends up getting the worst of it, leaving him seriously injured. In the chaos, Karai finally joins forces with the Turtles. The new team lineup is official. Back at the lair, there's an emotional father-daughter reunion between Splinter and Karai, but the peace is short-lived, as Tiger Claw manages to track them down. He appears, captures Karai, and throws her into a cell. Her betrayal would not go unpunished. The Shredder is seeing red. The reason? His legendary helmet, the Kuro Kabuto, has been stolen, and the thief is a new guy in town, a man named Zek, who has the superpower of turning invisible. Furious, the Shredder sends his best henchmen, Tiger Claw, Bradford, and Zever, to hunt down the thief and retrieve the helmet, but they aren't the only ones interested. The Turtles also want the helmet, but to use it as a bargaining chip to free Karai. A mad dash for the prize begins. Zek becomes the most wanted man in the city, with ninjas and mutants on his tail. The Turtles manage to set an ambush and grab the helmet, but their victory is short-lived. Moments later, Shredder's henchmen appear and surround them.
Come and get me, losers!
The Turtles win easily and head off to return the helmet. With the helmet in hand, they arrange the exchange. But the Shredder doesn't play fair. Instead of handing over Karai, he sends a disguised bomb. It's the trap of the century. The whole place explodes, and in the chaos, Zek is captured. In the end, the helmet returns to the Shredder's hands. The Turtles escape by the skin of their teeth, but they're still without Karai. The mission was a total failure. The Krang have decided to go all out with Plan 10. Basically, they've created a machine that swaps people's minds with animals, like a twisted version of a family comedy. In the first test, they try to swap a man's mind with a pigeon's, but of course, the Turtles show up to crash the party. In the middle of the confusion, the machine fires and hits Raph. Suddenly, his mind ends up in a Krang's body, and a Krang's mind ends up in Raph's. And what happens? Krang Raph, without a second thought, attacks his own brothers. The team manages to grab the pigeon and the human, but the fake Raph escapes. Meanwhile, the real Raph, trapped in that pink gooey body in the Technodrome, manages to use one of those communication orbs to call Donnie. The Turtles devise a plan to rescue their brother, only to discover it was all a trap to eliminate the team. After an underwater chase, they successfully infiltrate the enemy base. There, they uncover the Krang's master plan, to mind swap with all world leaders to take over the planet. The Turtles smash the machine, bringing Raph and the human back to normal. normal, but the damage is done. Even without the mind swap, the Krang begin mobilizing for their invasion of Earth. After being rescued, Karai is staying with the turtles, but has the look of someone who can't decide whether to stay or go. Seeing her conflict, Master Splinter decides to come clean and tell her the whole story, like a soap opera flashback. He reveals that he and the Shredder were raised as brothers, and that their rivalry exploded over the love of the same woman, Tang Shin. The Shredder, blinded by jealousy, ended up killing Splinter's wife and kidnapping their daughter, Karai. Karai's reaction? Instead of staying to process it all, she goes into full-on revenge mode and leaves alone to settle the score with the Shredder. The turtles go after her but arrive too late. The villain captures Karai and uses her as bait, proving there are no limits to his evil. His plan was to turn the turtles into monsters right in front of Splinter, using a mutagen laced with snake DNA. But as Splinter tries to save Karai, Shredder throws his own adopted daughter into a vat of mutagen. She transforms into a giant serpent and escapes, completely out of her mind. Splinter is devastated. The turtles manage to escape, and Dami promises to create a retro mutagen to bring Karai back. While the gang searches for Karai, April and Casey run into the purple dragons. But the street gang is different now, throwing around elemental powers like characters from Avatar. The upgrade came from a 2,000-year-old spirit named Ho Chin, who is trapped in a dagger. The spirit's plan is to kidnap April and Irma to use April's latent power to regain a physical body. The turtles and Casey discover that Ho Chin's only weakness is the very dagger that imprisons him. They invade the dragon's hideout but get a serious beatdown from the gang's new powers. In the heat of the moment, April manages to use the dagger to weaken Ho Chin, leaving the ghost vulnerable. That's when April, without even realizing it, activates her psychic powers and manages to repel the villain. With an opening created, Donnie delivers the final blow with the dagger, sending the spirit back to his prison. Irma, who remembers nothing, is taken home, while the team realizes the danger around them is only growing. The Krang have upgraded their mutagen and are ready to turn Earth into a pink nightmare. Leatherhead from Dimension X sends a desperate SOS before being captured. The turtles, wasting no time, find a portal to the enemy dimension and enter with filtration units to avoid suffocating. Like a team of space divers, Mikey, being Mikey, jumps into the portal without a second thought, forcing everyone to follow, and Dimension X is a total trip. The physics there are all warped, as if Doctor Strange decorated the place, and time moves faster than a weekend series binge. In the middle of the chaos, who adapts best? Mikey, of course. He uses some sound-emitting crystals to guide the team, becoming their official GPS. They find Leatherhead, but he's aged so much he looks like his own grandfather. He tells them the Krang's plan, to transform Earth into a copy of Dimension X. During an assault on a Krang robot factory, Leatherhead sacrifices himself to give the team time to escape. In the rush, Mikey manages to steal a super powerful energy cell before the portal is destroyed, which at least delays the invasion. Back home, the mood is tense. The real fight is about to begin. The energy cell Mikey grabbed manages to power up the turtle mech, but it's too late. The Krang invasion has begun in full force, and the first bombshell is this: Irma, April's friend, is actually an undercover Krang agent who gives up the location of their lair. It's the biggest betrayal since Loki tried to take over Earth. In the chaos, Splinter is captured while the turtles are forced to flee. New York City is overrun in minutes, and the big boss, Krang Prime, emerges from a giant portal like a video game final boss.
The Krang forming of your world is about to begin!
April and Casey manage to rescue a gravely injured Leo, while Raph and Mikey try to hold the line against an army. To make matters worse, Splinter still has to fight the Shredder, who, instead of helping, hands the Master over to the Krang on a silver platter. The turtles use the turtleneck for an epic battle against Krang Prime, but the robot is turned to scrap metal. When all seems lost, Casey rises from the ashes and rescues the group. They flee to April's farmhouse, completely devastated, mourning the loss of Splinter and their city. The future has never looked so bleak. 3 months have passed, and the team is living in forced exile at April's farmhouse. The mood is straight out of a drama film. Leo finally wakes from his coma, but is weak and suffering from his injuries, barely able to stand. While Donnie plays scientist trying to create a mutagenic remedy, Wrath, who can't stand being idle, disappears during a search for firewood. April and Casey go after him and find him covered in bizarre mutant vegetation, a victim of a swamp monster called the Creep. The creature looks like something out of a B horror movie and is draining all the mutagen from Wrath, turning him into a humanoid plant. The situation was bad, and now it's a nightmare. But Donnie, our purple-clad genius, has a stroke of brilliance. He manages to create an antidote using the creep's own mutagen against it, reversing the process and destroying the monster. Raph recovers, and with the team finally getting back on its feet, they focus on a single goal, leaving the country life behind and taking back New York City. The fight for revenge is about to begin. Deep in the woods, a hunter named The Finger is in full horror movie mode, stalking Bigfoot. Meanwhile, Mikey and Donnie are trying to learn camouflage from Wrath, but their lesson is interrupted by a sinister roar. They investigate and find Bigfoot, but with a twist. It's a female, and she's injured. Donnie plays field medic and tends to her arm. The result, Bigfoot instantly falls in love with Donnie. You know how it goes. The nerd has become the crush of a giant creature. The gang takes their new friend back to the farmhouse, which obviously goes horribly wrong. She starts breaking everything like a miniature King Kong in a china shop. To make matters worse, the hunter, The Finger, shows up to crash the party and manages to capture the turtles. But Bigfoot isn't having it and goes into a rage to save her beloved. The weirdest part is that the hunter completely freezes when he realizes she's a female, giving the turtles the perfect opening to turn the tables and defeat him. Back at the farmhouse, Donnie is bummed out, thinking about his unrequited love for April. Out of nowhere, she appears and gives him a kiss on the cheek. Donnie's brain simply blue screens, leaving him totally stunned. During a cleanup at the farmhouse, the gang discovers a secret door in the basement. You know when you're cleaning and find $10 in an old pair of pants? Well, they found an entire Krang ship that had been buried there for years. Upon entering, they accidentally free a woman who swears she's April's mother, supposedly captured by the Krang long ago. The story is super dramatic, but Ice Cream Kitty, who's basically the team's lie detector, immediately senses something is very wrong. Mikey, who has no filter, confronts Mom directly, and that's when all hell breaks loose. She transforms into a bizarre creature and starts beating up everyone, one turtle at a time. The monster is on the verge of winning until April, Casey, and Raph join forces and manage to freeze the creature again. Donnie analyzes the ship's data and confirms the sad truth. It wasn't April's mother, but a Krang experiment using her DNA. April is devastated, but her friends rally to comfort her. To cap it all off, Mikey mentions he spilled a little mutagen in the woods, and moments later, we hear the sinister croak of a frog. Mikey gets a lecture for messing up the farmhouse and decides to pull a dramatic move. He runs away from home, in full rebellious teenager style. In the middle of the woods, he bumps into Napoleon, a mutant frog who takes him to his secret community. There, he discovers that the frogs, led by one named Attila, hate humans and are planning an all-out war using mutagen. Mikey tries to play diplomat and defend his friends, but Napoleon, scared of his boss, ends up betraying him. The frogs' plan goes into motion and they kidnap April and Casey. That's it. The other turtles launch a rescue mission. Along the way, Napoleon regrets his betrayal and decides to help the team. Better late than never, right? During the fight, the frogs' tree fortress catches fire. And in the biggest plot twist ever, who saves their leader Attila? Humans. The frog leader is so shocked that he rethinks his entire anti-human philosophy. In the end, Attila promotes Napoleon to general, and the frog community decides to move south. Mikey makes peace with his brothers, and they all head back to the farmhouse to finally clean up the mess that started this whole thing. Leo wakes up with a strange feeling. His leg, which was injured, suddenly heals. Casey and April meet a shop owner, Bernie, who warns them not to touch a sinister book. Of course, they ignore him, plunging the turtles into a collective nightmare where villains called the Dream Beavers drain their life force. April and Casey realize their friends are in a coma and go find Bernie. He reveals that the book is a lid that traps the beavers and that he's been awake for 40 years to protect it. Casey smashes the book, releasing the Dream Beavers into the real world, but they're minuscule and harmless.
Wait a second.
Casey and Raph are arguing in the van when a mysterious driver runs them off the road. Casey, on a mission, goes after the guy and discovers the villain is a mutant called Speed Demon, a monster car. He teams up with Donnie and builds the Turtle Racer, a souped-up machine with a chicken for a GPS, for an insane race against Speed Demon. Donnie gets captured, and to save him, the team comes up with a plan to use a mutagen boost on the enemy car. The plan works, Speed Demon explodes, and Casey and Donnie become friends. Donnie tests a neural transmitter on April to investigate her powers. The experiment glitches and creates a mental link between April and a mutant chimera. The beast kidnaps Wrath, Casey, and Mikey. April is temporarily blinded but can see through the monster's eyes. Leo, still not recovered from his injury, and April, the blind guide, form an unlikely duo to rescue their friends. April uses the mental connection to mess with the chimera's mind, giving Leo the chance to immobilize the monster. The group escapes an avalanche by the skin of their teeth. In the end, Leo thanks April for helping him overcome his own limits. Leo decides to take his brothers on a retreat in the woods. During meditation, Splinter's spirit appears and warns them that they need to master an advanced mental technique to face the Shredder. Each turtle enters the astral plane and confronts their own fear and rival. Leo against his injury, Wrath against Fishface, Donnie against Tiger Claw, and Mikey against Razar. After conquering their inner demons, they return stronger and decide it's time to go back to New York. Returning to New York is tense. The city is overrun by the Krang, with people being mind-controlled and disappearing. The team uses their new van, the Party Wagon, and April senses that Splinter is in an abandoned lab. They find him, but he's feral and doesn't recognize them. The Foot Clan appears and captures their master. The Turtles invade Stockman's lab to rescue Splinter and discover the Shredder's plan, to cure him only to kill him afterward. They manage to save their master, who returns to normal. The group reunites in a new secret base, ready to take back the city and find Karai. Two guys, Steranko and Zek, are trapped in New York and have a brilliant idea: capture Karai and use her as a bargaining chip to negotiate their own freedom with the Shredder. Meanwhile, the Turtles are also looking for Karai, but using a more CSI-like method with snake DNA samples. They find her in a warehouse, but the reunion is interrupted by Fishface and Razar. In the chaos, Karai manages to escape but is captured by the villainous duo shortly after. At the docks, they try to make a deal with the Shredder, but of course, the Turtles show up to crash the party. Karai escapes again, and the Shredder is furious at the two goons' failure. As a punishment, he takes them to Stockman's lab. The Shredder's HR department is different. Instead of firing them, he mutates Steranko and Zek. Zek becomes a warthog and Steranko a rhinoceros, sealing their fate as the city's newest freaks. Completely transformed, they are forced to swear allegiance and are given a new mission: find Karai. Meanwhile, the Turtles have the same idea and split up to look for her. The plan is a bit silly, but the intention is good. Check 3 places with Comet in the name. Donnie and April go to a laundromat, Raph and Casey to a movie theater, and Leo and Mikey to a roller coaster. Bebop and Rocksteady waste no time and attack Donnie and April at the laundromat, capturing them both. Soon after, they ambush Raph and Casey at the theater. The troublesome duo is on a roll. Over at Coney Island, Leo and Mikey finally find Karai in a haunted house, but she's acting strange, attacks them, and flees. To make matters worse, Bebop and Rocksteady show up and capture the rest of the team, demanding the Retro Mutagen in exchange, who arrive with guns blazing. The whole showdown escalates into a frantic fight on the roller coaster until April reappears and, to everyone's surprise, attacks Rocksteady. The Turtles use the confusion to their advantage and use the Retro Mutagen as a distraction. That's when Karai reveals the real reason she was there. She wanted to say goodbye, as she feels she's losing control of herself. After that, she flees again, and the Turtles discover the antidote didn't even work on her. In the end, Bebop and Rocksteady manage to capture Karai and deliver her to the Shredder, who promises he will cure her, but only to get the revenge he craves. What a great dad, huh? Mikey, in his usual disastrous stroke of genius, accidentally creates a formula that accelerates the production of Retro Mutagen. With this new advantage, Splinter gives the order: rescue the humans who were turned into mutants and are now trapped in Dimension X. On this mission, they meet a new crew on the block, the Mighty Mutanimals, led by Slash and featuring other heavy hitters like Leatherhead. Their human ally, Kurtzman, reveals that the Krang plan to transform Earth into a copy of Dimension X using a giant missile filled with mutagen. After some internal friction, the Turtles and the Mutanimals finally team up. The team splits. While the Mutanimals handle the ground assault and open a portal, the Turtles embark on an aerial mission in a blimp to divert the missile toward the sun. In Dimension X, the scene is tense. The mutated humans are being used as slave labor. The Turtles steal a Krang ship and approach a technodrome loaded with mutagen, and that's where Mikey shines once again. He modifies the ship's engines to convert all the mutagen into Retro Mutagen en masse. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the Mutanimals are in a tight spot, struggling to keep the portal open. At the perfect moment, the Turtles unleash a literal shower of Retro Mutagen on the humans, reversing everyone's mutation.
You ready with that Retro Mutagen rap? Locked and loaded. Fire!
Krang Subprime tries to crash the party but gets soundly beaten. Everyone returns to Earth safe and sound. With the city beginning to recover, the Turtles celebrate their victory alongside their powerful new friends. After the Krang invasion, New York looks like a post-apocalyptic movie set. And who's patrolling this chaos? Casey Jones, who is super frustrated he missed out on the main battle. He runs into the Purple Dragons, who now have a new and much scarier leader, the mutant Razar. Casey discovers that the gang is working with Shredder, and after following the henchmen, he witnesses a meeting where the villain demands loyalty from a mob boss named Don Vizioso. Casey warns the Turtles, but in full lone wolf mode, he insists on handling it himself. He manages to steal a briefcase of mysterious chemicals, but only because Raph shows up to save his skin. Donnie analyzes the contents and realizes it's not mutagen. That's when Mikey, with his encyclopedic knowledge of junk food, recognizes the brand of the chemicals, a factory in Chinatown, Dragon's territory. Shredder and his gang take over the factory to produce the formula. Casey, full of bravado, storms the place to face Shredder one-on-one. Guess what? He's easily defeated. The Turtles arrive to help, and in the middle of the chaos, Donnie has a moment of pure genius and contaminates Shredder's mixture with the secret ingredient from Mikey's cheese puffs, ruining the whole plan. Later, Donnie finally solves the mystery. Shredder was creating a mind control formula, powerful enough to enslave Karai or even the entire city. Bebop and Rocksteady, the dim-witted villain duo, decide to break into an abandoned Krang lab. Their mission? To grab some chemicals to create a mind control serum, but the place is full of traps, and along the way, they bump into Muckman, a garbage man who is turned into a trash monster by the Turtles' mutagen. The irony is that Muckman is a local hero after stopping a robbery, but he hates his own appearance. He looks like something out of a B-horror movie. The Turtles, investigating the break-in, run into Muckman, who immediately points the finger and blames them for his transformation. Bebop and Rocksteady, seeing an opportunity, play the good guys and manipulate the poor guy, promising him a cure if he can get them something called Reagent X. Desperate, Muckman buys their story and goes after the Turtles. The fight is intense, but our heroes manage to show him it was all a big scam. When he realizes he's been played, Muckman turns on the villainous duo, destroying the Region X and foiling their plan. To keep the Turtles' secrets safe, they convince Muckman to go on TV and deny their existence, like a superhero movie actor denying spoilers. In the end, Splinter finds out about his son's recklessness and grounds everyone in the lair. Things start off tense with Tiger Claw capturing Slash and Rockwell on Shredder's orders, and the villain's plan is disgusting. He uses mind-controlling worms to turn them into his puppets. It's like an episode of The Last of Us, but with mutants. The mutanimals try to rescue their friends, but it's too late. The controlled mutants attack Master Splinter and kidnap Raph. Now it's personal. The Turtles and the mutanimals team up, Avengers style, and storm Shredder's fortress to save Raph. Inside, Shredder is already testing his serum on our red bandana-wearing turtle, but Donnie has a brilliant idea. He starts taunting Rockwell's intelligence, causing his brain to short-circuit and break the mind control. Meanwhile, Leo does what he does best. He annoys Raph until he explodes with rage, which also frees him from the control. Sometimes, being a hothead has its perks. With the team back together, they go after Shredder, who pulls the classic cowardly villain move and escapes. In the end, Splinter forgives Slash and Rockwell, understanding they were merely pawns in the enemy's game. Mikey is bored, and when Mikey gets bored, something crazy is bound to happen. He ends up meeting Mondo Gecko, a mutant skater lizard who looks like he came straight out of a Tony Hawk video game. The problem is, Mondo is being manipulated by Fishface to compete in a deadly race. The aquatic villain doesn't stop there and forces Mikey and Casey to enter the competition as well. The race takes place in a secret underground arena filled with traps and opponents. Basically, a nightmare version of Mario Kart. The other turtles manage to track their friends and arrive to help. During the race, Mondo Gecko realizes he's on the wrong side and betrays Fishface. With everyone working together, they manage to defeat the villain and escape the arena. Free from Fishface's control, Mondo Gecko officially joins the Turtles team. The episode ends with the crew exchanging catchphrases, strengthening their friendship and making the group even stronger and louder. Things get sinister when Baxter Stockman decides to play mad scientist and implants a mind control parasite in Karai. Now she's become Shredder's puppet, ready to obey obey his every command, and her first mission is a loyalty test: attack Rocksteady. With the mind control at full blast, Shredder gives the final order: eliminate Splinter and the Turtles. No mercy. Meanwhile, across town, Splinter is teaching Leo a secret ancient healing technique. Little does he know he'll need to use that trick sooner than he thinks. Karai, fully programmed to attack, invades April's home, and the first to feel her venom is April. Casey Jones tries to help, but ends up poisoned too. Chaos ensues. Splinter springs into action and uses healing mantras, like a recovery code, to stabilize April and stop the venom from spreading.
주, 손, 이, 사이, 유, 라이.
While the Master handles the mystical side, Leo takes on Karai in a sibling showdown. Joining forces, Leo and Splinter use the healing mantras at full power. The energy is so strong that it not only purges the venom from April, but also fries the parasite circuit in Karai's head, breaking Shredder's control, at least for a while. Karai manages to escape in the confusion, but the important thing is that the team survived another one of Shredder's twisted plans. Weeks after the attack, Leo is still down, trying to figure out a way to free Karai for good, but his drama is interrupted by a portal that opens out of nowhere. Out comes Renette, a Time Master apprentice who looks like she got her time-traveling license yesterday. She's being chased by Savanti, a demon-like villain who wants to get his hands on a time scepter to rule all of reality. Basically, a budget Thanos. The Turtles, who never turned down a good fight, decide to help the newcomer, but Savanti is clever and traps them all in a time loop in medieval England. It's like the movie Groundhog Day, but with armor and swords. After racking their brains to escape the loop, they head to the villain's tower. There, Savanti uses his power to revive an army of skeletons, turning the fight into a horror movie scene. In the final battle, Renette finally manages to use the scepter correctly and banishes Savanti to some random dimension. Problem solved, right? Wrong. When it's time to go home, her temporal GPS glitches, and instead of New York, the Turtles are sent to feudal Japan. The time trip just got a lot more complicated. The Turtles land face first in feudal Japan and immediately run into two familiar figures: a young Saki and a young Splinter. Yes, they found the future Shredder and the future Master Splinter as teenagers. They realize they've dropped right into the origin point of all their troubles: the rivalry between the two over a woman named Tang Shen. Trying to be time-traveling heroes, they decide to warn Tang Shen about Saki's true nature. But, like in any good time travel movie, they end up messing things up. Their attempt to warn her backfires and makes Saki look like a hero who saved Shen from an attack. By doing this, they risk erasing their own future. The situation gets worse when a fire starts in the dojo, forcing the two brothers into a deadly duel amidst the flames. The Turtles realize they need to fix the timeline and manage to rescue Splinter from the fire, ensuring his survival. Meanwhile, Saki flees with the baby Miwa, the future Karai. Suddenly, Renette appears and reveals that the scepter didn't make a mistake. It brought them there on purpose to ensure Splinter survived, sealing everyone's fate. Mission accomplished, she finally takes them back to the present. Shredder is furious and vows revenge on Splinter and the Turtles for what happened to Karai. To make sure no one else breaks into his house, he turns his lair into a fortress. But of course, the Turtles aren't going to let that slide. Donnie, in genius mode, creates an infiltration vehicle, a modified dumpster with stealth tech. Yes, a spy dumpster. But the plan goes down the drain when Bebop and Rocksteady, the most infamous idiots in the city, intercept the heroes. In the ensuing brawl, Raph injures his leg, forcing the team to retreat. Splinter orders everyone to stay put and rest, but Leo and Mikey, stubborn as ever, decide to go back alone. To distract the guards, they throw in a bit of mutagen, but things get completely out of control. They end up mixing the DNA of several mutants and accidentally create a gigantic monster, Mega Shredder. The beast goes on a rampage through New York, like an armored Godzilla, spreading terror. The Turtles have to team up again to fix their mess. Using explosives and the trusty Shellraiser, they manage to defeat the monster. In the midst of the chaos, they finally get what they came for: a brainworm, the missing piece to save Karai. With the brainworm in hand, Donnie rushes to the lab to try and reverse its effects on Karai. He prepares an experimental solution, but then Mikey walks in, and you know how it goes. Where there's Mikey, there's trouble. He accidentally spills the liquid. The solution hits the claw of the creep, which was being kept as a trophy. The result? The monster is resurrected, only now it's much more intelligent and violent. To make matters worse, it steals steals its own claw and fuses with snakeweed, creating creepweed, a hybrid that looks like it came from a botanical nightmare. This new villain starts spreading sleep-inducing spores throughout the city, knocking everyone out. During the fight, Dami himself is contaminated by the solution he created and regresses to a childlike state. Basically, the brains of the team becomes a baby. And who saves the day? Mikey himself. Using his photographic memory, which no one knew he had, he manages to recreate the antidote. He gives it to Donnie, who returns to normal and, at the speed of light, creates a retromutagenic herbicide to neutralize the plant monster. In the end, the team's genius has to admit, Mikey saved everyone's skin. Donnie finally synthesizes a neurotoxin from the brainworm, but the team is unsure if it will actually work on Karai. The tension is thick. While they argue, Karai herself, still under the worm's control, prepares a trap worthy of a horror film. Using holograms of Mousers, she lures each of the turtles into a deadly, personalized trap. Raph is trapped in a heat chamber that won't stop getting hotter. Leo finds himself in a field of sharp blades. Donnie faces a deadly electric puzzle, and Mikey nearly becomes soup in a tank of mutagen. With the team out of commission, Karai calls Splinter for the final showdown. The Master tries to use an ancient technique called the Healing Hands to free his daughter's mind, but the ritual goes very, very wrong.
I love you, Miwa.
The technique causes a violent reaction, and Karai plummets from a great height, disappearing into the shadows. The only thing left on the ground is a brain worm, a sign that Shredder's influence may have been broken, but at a terrible cost. Things start in the sewers, where Slash, the big-hearted brute, runs into an alien creature. The thing is pure muscle and rage. After a brawl that nearly brings the sewer down, the turtles discover the truth. The alien is Zog, a Triceraton soldier who's on Earth hunting Krang. That's when Wrath has an idea worthy of a strategic genius. He pretends to be Zog's commander, and the Dino warrior actually buys it. With his new soldier in tow, Wrath leads an attack on a Krang base located, of all places, inside the Statue of Liberty. The mission seems like a success, with the heroes blowing everything up, but there's a sinister revelation. Zog's plan wasn't just to eliminate a few Krang. He activates a giant beacon, calling the entire Triceraton armada. His idea is simple and direct: blow up the entire Earth to get rid of the Krang once and for all. It's like using a nuke to kill a cockroach. Raph tries to stop him, but Zog is determined. He sacrifices himself to ensure the signal is sent, leaving the turtles with a cosmic-sized problem on their hands. Zog's signal successfully reaches its destination. On the other side of the galaxy, the Triceraton armada receives the message and sets its GPS straight for Earth. The party's about to start. To make matters worse, a new character appears. Bishop, a renegade Utrom, who is basically a good guy alien brain. He arrives with terrible news. The Triceratons aren't coming with regular missiles. They're bringing a black hole generator. Their plan is to literally wipe Earth off the map. While the turtles and their allies desperately try to sabotage the Krang's technodrome to possibly use as a defense, the Triceraton fleet arrives. The sky goes dark and a colossal battle erupts. Ships, lasers, explosions everywhere. It looks like the heroes have a chance, but then Shredder decides to be Shredder. At the most critical moment, he betrays everyone and attacks Master Splinter. This betrayal is the perfect distraction the Triceratons needed. With the heroes busy with Shredder, the black hole generator is activated. There's nothing left to do. The Earth is sucked in, swallowed by darkness, and everything ends, or almost. Seconds before the end, a mysterious ship appears, rescues the turtles and the rest of the team, and vanishes into space. The pilot, a robot named Fugitoid. Aboard the ship, the Fugitoid lays it all out. Not only did he save them, but he also pulled a Back to the Future and traveled 6 months into the past. That's right, they've been given a second chance. But the mission is clear. If the Triceratons reassemble the 3 fragments of the black hole generator, Earth will become cosmic dust once again. The most dangerous treasure hunt in the universe has begun. The first stop is to repair the ship on a planet of space pirates called Varanon. And what does the team do? Exactly what you'd expect. They make a mess. Mikey, with his bottomless stomach, devours a super rare creature that was meant to be someone important's meal. Casey, in his punch first, ask questions later style, destroys some priceless merchandise. And April, to top it all off, gets robbed. All this chaos attracts the attention of the planet's boss, Lord Dreg, a warlord who looks like an angry giant insect. He attacks the group, who have to run for the ship like their lives depend on it. After a spectacular escape, they manage to get away by the skin of their teeth using a space jump. The Fugitoid takes the opportunity to give them a lecture. The mission is serious, and they can't afford to screw up anymore. The Triceraton pursuit is so relentless that the Fugitoid ship is forced to make a rough landing on a frozen moon. They barely barely step outside before they run into some space lizards, the Salamandrians, who attack without so much as a hello. Apparently, it was a cultural misunderstanding. You know how it is. First impressions matter, and theirs involved trading blows. After a massive brawl and facing some ice dragons that look like they're from Game of Thrones, the two teams realize their true common enemy is the Triceratons. Combining business with pleasure, they form a temporary alliance to raid a mine and steal a metal called beryllium, which is basically the fuel their ship needs to get out of that giant freezer. In the midst of all this, Wrath ends up forming a special connection with one of the Salamandrian warriors, Yagithgba. Being the romantic he is, he nicknames her Mona Lisa. Can we ship it? With the medal in hand, the team repairs the ship, says goodbye to their new reptilian friends, and gets back on the road, resuming their hunt for the Triceratons. The team is in the middle of a hologram training session when, out of nowhere, a distress signal interrupts. When they arrive, the scene is straight out of a horror movie. Space zombies everywhere. While everyone deals with the undead, Casey, ever the curious one, finds a mysterious hypercube and, of course, decides to mess with it. Bad idea. He ends up freeing Worm, a being who's like an evil genie of the lamp, granting wishes in the most chaotic way possible. Mikey, being Mikey, wishes for more excitement. And what happens? The zombies come to life. To try and fix it, Donnie wishes for Casey to become a super genius, and then, in a panic, wishes he wasn't an idiot anymore. The result is a disaster.
I'm the dopest bean in all of reality! What have I done?
Everyone ends up in a fifth-dimensional prison. There, Worm starts manipulating the crew to try and free himself for good. But Casey's wish worked. He's now a genius and comes up with a plan. He pretends to ally with Worm, but at the last second, he makes the final wish that they had never found the cube. And just like that, a total reset. Everything goes back to normal, as if nothing happened. The villain Lord Dreg is fed up with the turtles and decides to hire a professional to solve the problem. Armagon, a bounty hunter who is literally a space shark. His attack is so intense that the team has no choice but to take refuge in an abandoned space station they happen to be near. Trying to find a way out, they end up reactivating the station's artificial intelligence, Overmind, and the AI has a very peculiar hobby, turning organic beings into machines. It turns out Armagon got trapped inside too, and since no one there wants to become a coffee maker, the shark ends up fighting Overmind, giving the turtles a window to escape. But Overmind doesn't give up easily and manages to hack the Fugitoid's ship. With few options, the little robot makes a drastic decision: overload his own fusion core to blow up the entire station. The team escapes by a hair's breadth, and as soon as the dust settles, the radar pings again. The Triceraton fleet has been located. They've barely escaped one mess and are already heading into another. The crew arrives at Java Dal, a planet with a horror movie vibe, heavy with evil energy. It's where the first piece of the black hole generator is hidden. As soon as they land, the team has to fight off some very hostile creatures. They discover this place was once like the Garden of Eden, cared for by ancient beings called the Aeons. The problem is, the Aeons became corrupted after hiding their soul star and started worshipping the generator fragment, which basically turned the Guardians into demons. The planet's energy is so heavy that even the group starts bickering, like a family fight at Christmas dinner. They finally locate the fragment in a temple, but just as they're about to grab it, the Triceratons show up to crash the party. But not all is lost. The team finds the soul star in the temple and uses it to reset the planet, expelling the evil energy and purifying the Aeons. As a thank you, the now good Aeons give them a piece of their star as a gift. With the Triceratons long gone with the fragment, the group escapes, now with a new item in their inventory and a clear target in their sights. With the Triceratons in possession of the fragment, the team's next stop is Zaphod's Cantina, a space bar that looks like something out of Star Wars. The goal is to get the schematics for the enemy mothership. There, they meet Vrax, a dealer who looks every bit the part of someone who's going to double-cross them. And that's exactly what happens. After receiving only part of the payment, the guy betrays them and sends in beings called neutrinos to invade Mikey's mind and steal the secrets of the generator. With Mikey unconscious, the crew has to enter his mind to save his inner self. Mikey's subconscious is a total mess, filled with distorted memories and complete chaos. Inside, they find a child version of Mikey and use his pure imagination to defeat the neutrinos, proving that a child's creativity can be a powerful weapon. Back in the real world, they corner Vrax, force him to hand over the drive with the ship's schematics, and get out of there, ready for the next phase of the mission. Armed with the schematics, the team embarks on an infiltration mission into the Triceraton mothership using a stealth ship. The plan, of course, goes wrong, and they are captured almost instantly. As punishment, they are thrown into the Tri-Arena, a space coliseum where the rule is to fight to the death. The first challenge is a giant dinosaur called a Spasmosaur. Next, they must fight Xeno, a Triceraton prisoner. But then comes a twist. Xeno switches sides and allies with the turtles, following the logic of the enemy of my enemy is my friend. While the brawl is going down in the arena, April and Casey are on a parallel mission, rescuing the Fugitoid and stealing the generator fragment from the Triceratons. Back in the arena, Xeno betrays the Emperor to his face, helps the turtles escape, and stays behind to face his former allies. The whole group reunites, retrieves the fragment, and flees the ship in the middle of an action movie-worthy shootout. With the first piece of the puzzle finally in hand, the cosmic treasure hunt continues. The Salamandrians arrive seeking an alliance with the Krang to fight the Triceratons, but they get brutally rejected and called cowards. Meanwhile, Krang Subprime, who wastes no time, captures the Utrom Queen. In the midst of this chaos, the turtles and the Fugitoid land in Dimension X and find the Utrom's secret base. There, the Utrom High Council spills the cosmic tea. The Krang are actually Utroms who went very, very wrong. It all started with an Utrom scientist named Krang who went nuts for mutagen and ended up enslaving his own species. Basically a supervillain origin story. The turtles explain they need the pieces of the black hole generator to save Earth, but the Utroms, more bureaucratic than a government office, decide they need to debate the matter for 100 nextons. Who knows how long that is? But Subprime isn't in the mood for talk, invades the base, and kidnaps the Queen again. To top it all off, Mona Lisa and Sal Commander show up, suspicious of everything, but Mona trusts Wrath, and the power of friendship, or something like it, brings them all together. In the battle, the Queen is tortured, but before passing out, she manages to reveal the location of the next fragment, a hero to the end. After giving Subprime a beating, who then flees, the Queen provides the coordinates, the cosmic ocean of Varuna. And to end on a high note, there's a little romantic tension between Wrath and Mona Lisa. Leo is feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders, like a Marvel hero in an existential crisis, and vents to a hologram of Splinter. The team finally arrives at the cosmic ocean of Varuna, which isn't a real ocean, but a liquid nebula, an absolutely mind-blowing place. And since there's no peace for this crew, they're attacked by Armagon. He works for someone named Lord Dreg and immediately kidnaps Leo, demanding the fragment in exchange. The turtles end up in the cave of Cthulhu, a giant, ancient creature, but are saved by the Dagon, an amphibious people. Their queen, Hydrala, decides to test if the turtles are worthy by using Cthulhu herself, but Armagon messes everything up, and they fail the test. To make things worse, Lord Dreg shows up with his army of insects, Starship Trooper style, wanting to steal the fragment by force. The fight is so massive that Cthulhu is unleashed and without a second thought, swallows Dreg and Armagon. Problem solved in the most savage way possible. The turtles, of course, defend the kingdom and prove they are the true heroes of the story. As a reward, Hydrala gives them the second fragment, which was stored in the palace vaults. With 2 pieces of the puzzle, the next stop is Magdamar. The team is just chilling discussing the fragments when they're suddenly teleported to an alternate 2D dimension. It's like when you change the video quality on YouTube from 1080p to 144p. There, they run into their 1987 versions, the ones from the classic cartoon everyone loves. The Turtleverse is becoming real. The 80s turtles explain that their enemy, Krang, is planning to destroy both realities with some crazy bombs. Basically, a plan worthy of a cartoon villain. The 2 teams join forces to prevent this dimensional apocalypse. First, they disable a bomb in the 2D world. Then, they jump to the 1987 dimension and neutralize another. The final stop is the main reality, the 2012 one, to disarm the last bomb. But of course, it wasn't going to be easy. Krang Subprime captures everyone and takes them to the Technodrome. But 8 turtles are better than 4. Together, they give Subprime and the original Krang a beatdown. With the bombs disarmed, the 87 turtles go back home, back to the future style. Everything seems resolved until a giant worm, which is actually Krang Prime, emerges in the middle of the street. Peace never lasts long, does it? The starship Ulysses is in a mad dash for the final piece of the black hole generator. The mission is almost over, until the Triceratons show up to spoil the fun. Their leader, Mozar, arrives full of swagger, demanding the pieces, but obviously, the crew tells him to take a hike. The Triceratons' response is immediate, a shower of meteor meteor missiles and, to make things worse, a virus called Skivix. This thing infests the ship with destructive little creatures, like space gremlins that go around breaking everything. Chaos breaks out and the crew has to deal with this plague while dodging attacks. In the midst of the confusion, Donnie is in full mad scientist mode, using random parts to rebuild the Fugitoid. It's a classic bit of space-age jury rigging. The fight with the Triceratons gets ugly, with blows flying everywhere, but in the end, the villains come out on top. They manage to get the pieces of the generator and take off. The Ulixes is left completely wrecked, but the team manages to escape by the skin of their teeth. The mission was a total failure, but they're not giving up. Now the plan is simple. Find the last piece of the puzzle before the Triceratons get their hands on it. The race against time has truly begun. The mission has barely ended when the ship's comms ring. It's Mona Lisa, calling for help. It seems Sal Commander has been captured by Armagon and taken straight to Sectoid 1, a place that's basically a nightmare for anyone with a fear of insects. The team heads out for the rescue, but upon arrival, they're greeted by a swarm of giant insects and a very unpleasant surprise. Mona Lisa reveals it was all a trap. She betrayed everyone and handed them over to Dreg on a silver platter in exchange for her planet's freedom. A major screw-up. Now captured, they discover that Dreg is plotting with the Triceratons. Meanwhile, Donnie gets stung by a venomous bee and almost kicks the bucket, but the Fugitoid saves the day, heals him, and even helps him create a super potent insecticide. With the spray in hand, they escape and go after Dreg, who unleashes his pet, a giant scorpionoid. Realizing the mistake she made, Mona throws herself in front to hold the creature back, but she has a change of heart and returns to help the team. After another chaotic battle, they manage to escape. Mona apologizes to Raph, who accepts, but with a look that says he doesn't 100% trust her yet. The search for the final piece leads the crew to Magdamar, a planet that's basically hell in rock form, complete with earthquakes and lava storms. And who's guarding the prize? A giant, overprotective cosmic creature named Toka. But of course, the Triceratons and Dreg wouldn't miss this and arrive causing trouble. Dreg mercilessly attacks the Ulixes, forcing a very rough emergency landing. Amidst the planet's chaos, Raph plays animal protector and saves a baby alien turtle, Chompy. Little does he know the little guy is Toka's son. The crew soon discovers that the piece they've been looking for is stuck to Toka's shell, but Dreg is faster, steals the item, and gives it to the Triceratons as a gift. With her son in danger and the piece stolen, Toka goes into a full-on rage mode and attacks Dreg's ship. The Triceratons' solution to the problem is a bit of an overreaction. They simply blow up a dwarf star to wipe Toka off the map. And yes, they succeed. The scene is heavy, but little Chompy survives, hidden in Wrath's shell. With all the pieces in hand, Mozar assembles the black hole generator and announces that the weapon's first test will be on Earth. This is very, very bad. The ship finally reaches Earth's solar system and Fugitoid drops a bombshell. He was the mastermind behind the black hole generator. Even worse, he sold the contraption to the Krang just for the cash. A truly cosmic screw-up. Leo, feeling the weight of responsibility, sets off alone on a suicide mission against the Triceraton mothership. The result? Obviously, he gets captured. The team, as always, has to clean up the mess and rescues Leo. That's when they discover Fugitoid's redemption plan. He's going to sacrifice himself, merging his own body's energy with the ship's dark matter to destroy the generator. Basically, a robotic I Am Iron Man moment. As the Triceratons prepare to turn New York City to dust, Fugitoid activates the self-destruct protocol and he and the generator turn into stardust. But just when everyone thinks the fight is over, a second Fugitoid appears out of nowhere, offering a new space adventure. And to make things even crazier, the team comes face to face with their future selves in a time paradox that would blow anyone's mind. Weeks after saving the Earth, the mood is celebratory. April is officially initiated as a kunoichi, complete with a full ceremony. But a hero's peace never lasts long. A mysterious figure named Shinigami crashes the celebration, steals April's sword, and reveals she's working with Kurai. That's right, Shredder's daughter is back. The Turtles discover that Kurai has taken over her father's old lair and is rebuilding the Foot Clan. But her goal isn't to follow in Shredder's footsteps, it's to destroy the empire he built. The irony is just perfect. In the middle of this chaos, Kurai and Shinigami are captured by Tiger Claw, forcing the Turtles to stage a rescue. After shaving their skins, Kurai makes it clear she's not going back to the lair. She has her own path and her own plans. Leo is secretly helping Kurai and Shinigami in their attacks on the remnants of Shredder's empire. During a mission to destroy a chemical factory, the plan goes horribly wrong. wrong. A massive explosion gravely injures Donnie, forcing Splinter to use his healing abilities to save his son. And of course, Leo gets an epic lecture about how this reckless vengeance only brings disaster. But did Leo listen? Of course not. He convinces the team to raid a Footbot factory. There, they run into Tiger Claw and his soldiers, and a full-blown brawl breaks out. In the heat of the moment, a recovered Donnie arrives to save the day and helps deactivate the robots. After the battle, Kurai announces a change of plans. No more blowing up property. Now, the focus is singular, hunting down Shredder himself. Playtime is over, and the personal hunt has truly begun. Shredder is getting antsy, pushing Stockman to finish the new mutagen. The idea is to create a concoction that can control mutations. Meanwhile, the Turtles are on their usual patrol, but the night shift turns into a horror movie when Stockman Fly unleashes his new creations. And the worst part, they're giant mutant insects. We meet Amtrax, who multiplies like a video game glitch, and Scumbug, a mutant spider that would give even Ron Weasley nightmares. For Wrath, who is terrified of bugs, the situation is basically his personal hell. To make matters worse, Casey gets captured in the middle of the chaos. Wrath completely panics, freezing on the spot. But then Master Splinter steps in with his guru wisdom, teaching Wrath a mantra. With their heads in the game, the Turtles move in for the rescue. They manage to save Casey and send the monsters back to the hole they crawled out of. Stockman Fly, ever the sly one, manages to escape with the cash. In the end, we see Shredder with a smirk on his face. His mutagen is finally ready. Things are about to get ugly. The mighty mutanimals arrive with a revelation. The mob boss Don Vizioso is planning to create anti-mutant weapons. Basically, a gangster version of the X-Men's Sentinel project. The news creates tension in the lair, and Wrath, ever the hothead, gets into a huge fight with Leo and decides to quit the team, pulling the whole I work alone routine. But that plan goes south in record time. Alone, Wrath becomes an easy target and falls into an ambush set by Vizioso's goons. As if that wasn't enough, Donnie and Mondo Gecko are also captured. The situation went from bad to worse. Now, to fix this mess, the Turtles and the Mutanimals have to team up, like a sewer Justice League. They raid Vizioso's hideout and the beatdown begins. The place is packed with mutagenic weapons, but the makeshift team handles the job. They rescue everyone, and Wrath finally makes peace with Leo, admitting that teamwork is better. With Vizioso defeated, the heroes take control of the city, at least for now. April is suffering from some nasty headaches, and it's all because of the Eon crystal she carries. Donnie, being the genius he is, decides to run some tests to figure out what's going on. But during the experiment, the crystal pulls one of its tricks and brings two characters from Mikey's comic books to life, Wingnut and Screwloose. It's like Jumanji, but with comic book superheroes. At first, it's all fun and games, but the two realize the crystal's immense power and are corrupted by it. They go from good guy heroes to villains and steal the artifact. The Turtles go after them, and the final fight takes place in a cathedral, a super dramatic setting. But it's not strength that solves the problem. It's April. She connects with the crystal and uses its power to reverse the magic, sending the two characters back into the pages of the comic book. After recovering the artifact, April makes a decision. She will never part with the crystal again. It's a responsibility that is now hers alone. As a storm rages outside, Shredder is desperate for an upgrade. He demands Stockman give him an unstable mutagen to regain his strength. Despite warnings that it could go very wrong, he injects himself with the fluid and undergoes a sinister mutation, transforming into a grotesque monster with blades sprouting from his body. Super Shredder is in the house. With his new metal quill look, he hatches a plan to lure his enemy. He uses Kurai as bait, sending Tiger Claw and Razar to attack her just to get attention. The Turtles, of course, fall for the trap and show up to save the day, but it was all part of the show. Shredder emerges from the shadows and tells Splinter straight up, it's time for the final showdown. The chosen location is an abandoned subway station with a real horror movie vibe. The villain tries a mind game, projecting old photos to mess with Splinter's head, but the plan is interrupted when a runaway train appears out of nowhere, turning the fight into chaos on the tracks. In the confusion, Splinter and Shredder fall from a cliff and simply disappear into the darkness. Game over? Nobody knows. After that action movie-worthy fall, desperation sets in. The Turtles begin a frantic search for Master Splinter, while Shredder, broken but alive, sends his henchmen to search the area too. Deep in the abyss, Splinter is alive but in bad shape, trapped with a fractured leg. To make matters worse, he starts having hallucinations of the Rat King, who keeps trying to mess with his head with mime games. Meanwhile, the Turtles descended to the chasm and run into who else? Bebop and Rocksteady, trying to capture Splinter to take the credit. After teaching the idiot duo a lesson, then, they finally find their master, but the peace is short-lived as Shredder shows up to ruin the rescue. The brawl that follows is brutal. In the midst of the chaos, Karai, who is being mentally controlled by the villain, hesitates upon seeing Leo get seriously injured. This brief distraction is the opening the turtles needed. They grab Splinter and manage to escape by the skin of their teeth. Shredder is furious, screaming at Stockman for more mutagen, acting like an addict needing his next fix to recover from the beatdown. With Shredder desperate for more mutagen, the story's focus shifts completely. Now the problem is April, whose psychic powers are totally out of control due to the Eon Crystal. Donnie, being the nerd he is, tries to run some tests to understand her limits, but things go very, very wrong. The crystal simply takes over and reveals a sinister alien entity named Zonarone that was trapped inside. It's like a cosmic venom. Zonarone possesses April's body and becomes a weapon of mass destruction. She attacks the turtles mercilessly and in the middle of the fight disintegrates Donnie, scattering his molecules into the air. Shocked, the remaining brothers charge Zonarone in the middle of the city, trying everything to reach the real April trapped in her own mind. Amid the confusion, April's consciousness senses that Donnie isn't truly dead. He's just become a bunch of quantum particles floating around. This realization gives her the strength she needed. Using her own powers, she shatters the crystal from the inside out and expels Zonarone from her body. April finally regains control, but with an upgrade, she now has much better command of her psychic abilities. A gigantic biological ship is heading towards Earth like a space kaiju, and its GPS is locked onto our planet. Meanwhile, Mikey is playing pet dad to Chompy, the little alien turtle, when the news reveals that the creature is Toka, Chompy's mother, who everyone thought was long gone. The turtles immediately realize this is going to be bad. If the military decides to play Independence Day with the cosmic turtle mom, the entire planet could turn to dust. The mission is clear: return Chompy to his mother before all hell breaks loose. The plan is to borrow an invisible Krang ship, but the location is under the control of the Earth Protection Force. There, they run into Bishop, an Utrom ambassador who warns that Toka is extremely dangerous and tries to confiscate Chompy. After a quick scuffle with the turtles, Bishop realizes the turtles know what they're doing and gives them the green light for the mission. They get the ship, but it's too late. Toka has arrived, and the army is already firing on her. Raph becomes the bait to distract the soldiers, while Leo, Donnie, and Mikey make the special delivery. Upon seeing her baby, Toka calms down instantly.
Toka! It's Chompy! He's your baby!
In a gesture of gratitude, like a "thanks for taking care of my kid," she lets Chompy stay with the turtles for a while longer. The threat has been neutralized and the team celebrates, even though they know that one day Chompy will have to go home. Tiger Claw gets a weird vibe, like his spider sense is tingling, and goes to investigate with his partners, Bebop and Rocksteady. Meanwhile, Splinter is in full Master Yoda mode, teaching the team to trust their intuition. Speaking of intuition, April has a grim vision involving twin blades and Casey getting seriously hurt, and just like that, it happens. During a patrol, Raph and Casey are ambushed by Alopex, a super stylish mutant fox who steals the so-called Blades of Vengeance. The problem is, Casey gets a small cut from one of the blades and finds out he's been cursed. Now he has deadly bad luck, practically a disaster magnet. The only way to break the spell is to use the same blades against the one who cast the curse. Tiger Claw reveals that Alopex is his sister. The two were mutated by the Krang as children and became a pair of assassins, but she betrayed him and now wants revenge. The turtles find Alopex, but she couldn't care less about Casey. First, she wants to settle the score with her brother. The family drama begins, with Tiger Claw chained up. In the middle of the fight, Casey manages to grab the blade. April freezes it, and he shatters it, freeing himself from the curse. Alopex escapes, and Tiger Claw warns that next time, there won't be a conflict, there will be a finisher. Stockman finally finishes his evil science project, the Super Mutagen, which stabilizes Super Shredder's mutation. Now he's basically an armored Terminator, more powerful and emotionless. With a heart of ice, he discovers where Karai and the mutanimals are hiding, and decides it's time to wipe her, Splinter, and the turtles off the map once and for all. Meanwhile, Splinter is acting strange, a bit distant. He has a deep conversation with Leo about being a true leader, saying it's not just about strength, but about having heart. After that, he finally agrees to visit Karai. At the hideout, Super Shredder arrives, tearing the place apart with brutal force. The heroes fight with everything they have, but the villain is on another level. Karai is gravely injured while trying to save Splinter, and the group has to split up to handle the villains. Leo, Donnie, Mikey, and Leatherhead go after Bebop and Rocksteady, while Wrath, April, Casey, and Slash follow another lead. The real fight happens on a rooftop, where Splinter faces Super Shredder. It's an epic battle, worthy of a movie finale. Splinter seems to win, knocking his arch-nemesis down. But in a moment of distraction, when it all seemed over, Shredder rises and delivers the fatal blow, killing Splinter right in front of his sons, who can only watch in shock and heartbreak. Leo is having a vision of Master Splinter's spirit. Splinter warns him that Shredder survived and gives Leo the encouragement he needs to take up the mantle of leadership. Soon after, a recovered Karai shows up with a treasure map, the location of Shredder's secret mansion. The team wastes no time and raids the place, which looks more like a video game level full of traps and enemies. They face Footbots, Fishface, and everyone's favorite idiot duo, Bebop and Rocksteady. In the midst of the chaos, Mikey, of all people, makes a huge mistake. He accidentally uses the only dose of retro mutagen on Baxter Stockman. It was their only chance to reverse Super Shredder's mutation. To make matters worse, Tiger Claw unleashes mutant tigers on the team, but the group reorganizes and gets down to business. The final confrontation. The Turtles face Super Shredder in a brutal duel, a true boss battle with an insane amount of action. After an intense fight, Shredder is finally defeated. For a moment, it looks like Leo went down with him, but the guy is tough as nails and survives. The team celebrates their victory, but the relief is short-lived. They know that with villains like Tiger Claw still out there, the peace won't last long. Casey and Raph are in full Scooby-Doo mode, chasing a cloaked weirdo, but instead of finding an old man in a costume, they're attacked by real supernatural creatures. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Leo finds a Jurassic-era treasure, rare VHS tapes of a show called Space Heroes: The Next Generation, like a Star Trek from their universe, and the gang is super excited. Back to the mystery. The investigation into the attacks leads the Turtles straight to a bizarre cult led by none other than Tiger Claw. The guy's plan is like summoning an evil Shenron. Use an ancient scroll to bring a demo dragon from the netherworld named Cavaxus, and what do you know? The crazy ritual works. Cavaxus emerges all-powerful, and Tiger Claw, feeling like the boss, orders him to destroy the Turtles. The team tries to fight, but Cavaxus's power is on another level. They get a serious beatdown and have to retreat to avoid becoming turtle soup. In the end, Tiger Claw doesn't just want to cause chaos. His real plan is to use Cavaxus's powers to do the unthinkable, resurrect the Shredder. He orders Cavaxus to do a free trial of his resurrection service, bringing back Razar, who is now a zombie wolf. But the main course is yet to come. To bring Shredder back to life, they need two items, like Shredder's Horcruxes, his heart, and his helmet, the Kuro Kabuto. The mission to retrieve the helmet falls to Bradford and Fishface, who go to steal it from a blind swordsman named Tatsu, with a real Daredevil vibe. But they're not the only ones interested in the item. Karai and Shinigami are also after the helmet, but to stop Tiger Claw's plan, the Turtles team up with the girls because the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? A massive brawl breaks out against Bradford and Fishface for the artifact. In the end, the villains come out on top. Bradford manages to get the helmet and delivers it straight to Tiger Claw. Now, only one ingredient is missing for the macabre ritual to be complete. The team realizes things have gotten serious, and they need to stop this at all costs before the final boss returns to the game. Don Vizioso has Shredder's heart on his table, like some bizarre trophy. The mobster's plan is to literally eat the organ to absorb the villain's power, in a very Hannibal Lecter-esque move. The Turtles, acting like master spies, intercept the communication and figure everything out. The mission is clear: get the heart before the Foot Clan does. They raid Vizioso's restaurant, and the brawl kicks off. But in the middle of the fight, Donnie gets distracted trying to get personal revenge, and the chance to grab the heart goes down the drain. Vizioso manages to escape with the artifact to a luxury hotel. Donnie then decides to play the lone wolf. He disobeys Leo's orders and raids the hotel by himself, compromising the entire mission. To make matters worse, the Foot Clan and Cavaxus also arrive on the scene, and the confrontation turns into an all-out war. Mikey ends up gravely injured, but Leo and the others manage to escape with the heart. But it's too late. Cavaxus completes the ritual, and Shredder is reborn as a zombie creature straight out of a horror movie. The resurrected Shredder is back, but he seems weak, as if he just woke up from a coma. The first thing he does is appoint Cavaxus as his second-in-command. The Turtles, led by Leo, prepare a reconnaissance mission. Donnie, meanwhile, finishes up some spectral cannons, basically Ghostbuster-style weapons designed to deal with supernatural entities. They find Shredder's mutants in the sewers and, with Fishface's help, discover their origin. During a confrontation with Shredder and Cavaxus, Tiger Claw uses an artifact called the Seal to control Hothead, but Shredder demands he hand the object over to the demon. Tiger Claw refuses, and Cavaxus, out of patience, simply destroys the seal. Bad idea. This opens a portal to the Netherworld, unleashing a horde of spirits, including ghosts of old enemies like Tatsu and Ho Chen. When all seems lost, Splinter's spirit appears to help the Turtles, like a ghost master Yoda. Mikey uses the shards of the seal to control Hothead and open another portal, sending all the spirits back home. Cavaxus is defeated, and Tiger Claw, after helping, retreats with a truce. Just to be safe, the Turtles destroy the seal for good. The Salamandrian commanders, Githraka and Yagithba, arrive on Earth to hunt the electric criminal Neutralizer. They team up with the Turtles and Agent Bishop, but during the fight, Mikey is supposedly disintegrated by a blast. In a major plot twist, he survives and gains temporary electric superpowers. Lord Dreg allies with Neutralizer and invades the city. The Turtles and their allies fight back. Mikey uses his new powers to sabotage Dreg's ship, and they manage to defeat the villains, but Mikey's powers vanish. In the end, Mona Lisa asks to stay on Earth and joins the mighty Mutanimals. The samurai rabbit, Usagi, gets into a fight with the Blade of the Gods. He finds a burned-out village and discovers that mercenaries are after the holy boy, Kintaro, a spoiled kid. Usagi takes on a mission of escorting the boy to the Temple of the Sky Buddha. Along the way, he meets the Ninja Turtles, who have been bewitched by the Wolf Jay. After a fight and a misunderstanding is cleared up, the group teams up. They survive the fall and decide to head through a haunted forest. Mikey gets possessed by some prankster spirits who create illusions and mess everything up. To get rid of them, they offer food. Soon after, a spider demon, the Joraguma, captures the group, but the prankster spirits return to help free them. At night, Jay attacks the group in a shared dream, but Leo realizes they are still being manipulated. The group climbs Mother Mountain, with Kintaro complaining every step of the way. Jay creates hallucinations in the clouds to scare them. Cat ninjas kidnap Kintaro, but Usagi and Leo rescue him. At the Temple of the Sky Buddha, they discover that the head priest is Jay in disguise. He reveals his plan to possess Kintaro's body to become a perfect vessel. Jay manages to possess Kintaro, but this frees the Turtles from his control. The big turning point comes when Kintaro himself breaks free from the possession by biting Jay. The real monk appears and explains that Kintaro is the temple's protege. Usagi continues his journey, and Kintaro opens a portal to send the Turtles back home. In a flashback, we see Master Splinter deciding to open the memory vault and tell the Turtles how it all began. The story flashes back in time, with him finding the 4 baby turtles in a pet shop. One day, he follows a strange man and ends up in a nasty fight with the Krang. In the middle of the chaos, a mysterious ooze splatters everywhere and bam! The magic happens. Splinter turns into a giant rat and the Turtles become, well, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles we know. It's the classic origin story with radioactive ooze. But in the sewers of New York, life as a single dad in the sewers isn't easy. Splinter raises the boys hidden from humans, but the peace is short-lived. The Krang reactivate their trackers and return to haunt the family. During their escape, Splinter notices something bizarre. The babies are mimicking his ninjutsu moves, as if they're doing a ninja dance challenge. The Krang set an ambush, but Splinter uses the environment to his advantage, turning the tunnels into his own combat playground to protect the kids. After sending the enemies packing, they find a safe place, a secret chamber that becomes their permanent home. That's where the naming ceremony happens. Splinter, who was apparently an art fan, names each of them after Renaissance masters, Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, and Raphael. To cap it all off, he gives each of them their traditional weapons, officially starting their ninja training. Get ready for a future in an alternate reality, one that looks straight out of Mad Max. Raph and Donnie, who is now basically a brain in a robot body, are in the middle of a desert, almost out of fuel. To make matters worse, they're attacked by a gang of scavengers. After dealing with the thugs, they rescue Mira, a mutant meerkat with a map tattooed on her arm. The destination? A place called the Oasis. Mira says a crazy hermit, the Holy Chalupa, can decipher the map. The problem is, to get there, they have to cross the impossible desert with a villain named Verminator Rex on their tail. Amidst quicksand and giant monsters, they find none other than Mikey, who has become an eccentric mystic living in a fortress. Mikey confirms the Oasis exists, but reveals Leo died in the explosion that caused all this. Before they they can process the news, Verminator attacks and kidnaps Mira. Raph then challenges the rival gang leader to a ritual combat, wins the brawl, and unites everyone under his command. The gang heads out for the rescue, but comes face to face with the final boss, Maximus Kong, a mutant warlord, and the twist is straight out of a soap opera. Maximus Kong is Leo, who survived but was driven mad by the radiation. With his brother's help, Leo regains his memory. Together, they finally reach the Oasis, a green paradise that becomes the family's new home. It's Halloween night, and things get a lot scarier than usual. April and Casey are attacked by supernatural creatures and end up turning into a werewolf and a vampire, respectively. Basically, the Twilight Saga, but with more fighting. The turtles arrive to help, but the infection is already spreading through the city. Out of nowhere, Renette, a time master, appears to explain what's going on. The villain Savanti has escaped from prison and is traveling through time to recruit an army of classic monsters and take over the world. It's like a horror-themed Avengers. Renette uses her time scepter and takes the turtles straight to ancient Egypt, Savanti's first stop. The villain's plan is to awaken the mummy of a pharaoh. Inside the pyramid, the gang faces Indiana Jones-style traps and a bunch of mummies who aren't messing around. When they finally reach the main chamber, it's too late. Savanti controls the mummified pharaoh and sends him to attack. While the fight rages on, Donnie, the group's nerd, deciphers the inscriptions on the sarcophagus and figures out how to reverse the curse. Amidst the chaos, Savanti nearly steals the time scepter. Mikey manages to get it back, but the villain escapes and flees to the Middle Ages. Determined to save their friends, the turtles jump into the time portal and go after him. The hunt has just begun. The turtles and Renette literally drop into a swamp in Transylvania, straight into the 1300s. After the shock, they need to blend in and come up with the perfect disguise. Monster hunters, like some shell-backed Van Helsings. Right away, they discover that the villain Savanti is in the area looking for none other than the local boss, Dracula himself. Things get ugly when they're attacked by werewolves, and in the middle of the fight, Raph gets bitten. But here's where monster biology gets weird. Instead of turning into a big furry wolf, Raph starts showing signs of vampirism. It's like being bitten by a spider and getting the strength of an ant. Logic went out the window. Along the way, they meet travelers Volko and Esmeralda, and discover that Volko is also a werewolf. Before they can swap notes on curses, Dracula and Savanti show up to crash the party, capturing Raph and Volko. Using the last drop of power from the time scepter, the rest of the team time jumps and ends up in 1818 Germany, right at the doorstep of Frankenstein's castle. Savanti and Dracula are basically bullying Igor into helping Dr. Frankenstein carry out his famous experiment of reanimating a corpse. Meanwhile, the turtles infiltrate the castle on a Mission Impossible style to find synthetic blood and cure Raph. But the castle has heavy security, and they run into illusions created by a mummy, kind of like Batman's Scarecrow, but with more bandages. After surviving the mind tricks, they end up helping Frankenstein, and bingo! The monster comes to life, but the joy is short-lived because Dracula, who is no fool, uses his hypnotic powers and turns the monster into his new attack pet. In the chaos, the lab blows up, and Raph's cure turns to dust. Everything went wrong. To make matters worse, Savanti grabs the barely charged time scepter and bolts with Frankenstein's monster in tow, forcing the turtles to chase him back to the present, back to the future. Well, the present. Except New York has become the set of a horror movie, with monsters running rampant everywhere. The first mission is to deal with Raph, who is now a full-fledged vampire. They even manage to capture their brother, but he's in full villain mode, betrays everyone, and steals the time scepter. Taking refuge in an abandoned hospital, they figure out the plan. To break the curse, they need to defeat the final boss, Dracula. It's rule number one of every vampire movie. During the final showdown, Frankenstein's monster decides he's done being a vampire's henchman and becomes Mikey's best friend. In the chaos, the already glitchy time scepter gives one last gasp and sends Savanti on a one-way trip to the prehistoric era. Ciao, buddy. Watch out for the dinosaurs. The turtles finally defeat Dracula, and with the big boss down, the curse is broken. They return Volko and Frankenstein to their own times, and with the city saved, can finally celebrate Halloween. Shredder and Krang are absolutely pissed at the turtles. The solution? They rage quit and jump to another dimension, Earth 7, to finally power up the Technodrome and take over that world. But in this new reality, the local turtles are bored out of their minds. Donnie invents useless gadgets, Mikey plays with his mutant pets, and Leo tries to meditate but finds no purpose in life. Basically, the turtles are in vacation vacation mode. Meanwhile, Bebop and Rocksteady are unemployed and broke until they find a bizarre job ad specifically looking for warthog and rhinoceros mutants. The employers are, of course, the other dimensional versions of Shredder and Krang, who test the duo in a fight and hire them as their new henchmen. The original Turtles, who followed the villains, arrive in the new dimension and are immediately captured by Bebop and Rocksteady. But who shows up to save the day? The bored crew. The Earth 7 Turtles rescue their counterparts. The gangs team up, find the teenage and totally noob versions of April and Casey, and run a quick training session to get the duo ready for a fight. Shredder sends his new employees to steal a microchip and then some crystals. The Turtles try to stop them but fail miserably, even with help from Leatherhead and Mondo Gecko. With the Technodrome at 100%, the villains appear in New York, ready to open a portal to Dimension X and destroy everything. But Bebop and Rocksteady find out the plan includes erasing their planet too. That's when the duo thinks, whoa, hold on, and switches sides, joining the heroes. In the final battle, the crystals are destroyed, the portal collapses, and the villains are defeated. Bebop and Rocksteady decide to give up crime and become superheroes, while the original Turtles return home, leaving Earth 7 protected by its local team, who are now much more motivated.